So yeah, my name is Nemanja Jovanovic, and I'll be your host today. I'll also be organizing future webinars also. So if you're interested in presenting your work, you can contact me via email address. I'll put it in this chat. So today's webinar will be recorded, so it can be posted online so for everybody to see. Few more things also, we are limited to 40 minutes due to limitations on Zoom. So after these meetings end, just click on the new link and we can resume our presentations, Karen's presentation. So also by mistake, I left that you can join meeting in any time. So for the future, I'll disable that option so you can join when the meeting is scheduled. Today's event will be presented by Karen Powers from Italy. Thank you a lot for jumping in such short notice. And the topic will be Vespa orientalis, a new threat for honeybees, which I'm very eager to hear about. And after presentations, we will have time for discussions and questions. So before we start, I suppose Karen can tell us something about herself and the work she's doing.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen, and I am actually a veterinarian, but I've been working on honeybee and honeybee pathology for the past almost 10 years. And more recently, so when we started with this emergency of Vespa orientalis, I focused more on Vespa orientalis as I would call it like a macro pathogen of honeybees. I'm very happy to see that there are some of I hope to call fellow colleagues which work on the same topic, such as Alexandro, such as Professor Rodriguez Flores. And I hope you can become interested in this topic, because I really think that this is going to be a huge problem. It is already for us in the south of Italy. It's going to be a huge problem for all of us in across Europe. I'm going to share my screen and like a small presentation that I have created. Let me, please tell me if you can see my presentation.
Yes, I can see it.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to, just one question. Is it going to be the same link as the one that we are already using after?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to give you general information about the topic and what I have been lately working on. So I don't know how many of you are actually have already met this predator of honeybees. If not, I'm going to give you some of the information, and if anybody feels like they have something more specific to say, then I hope that they can jump in the conversation. So we know that honeybee loss can be connected to different kinds of elements. We know about agrochemicals, climate change, habitat loss, wrong beekeeping practices. We know about pathogens. However, we know very little about the predators. So these are the main predators which can be affecting honeybee colonies. In Italy, we have loads of bears, and it's becoming quite some problem, especially for honeybee colonies, which are bred and kept in mountain environments. During some periods of the year, we have the European bee eater, which also is a huge predator of honeybees living in colonies. Not so frequent, luckily, in our country is predator activities by skunks or crab spiders, which is this little yellow spider that you can see here, which blends very well with some of the flowers and somehow captures in spider webs and then feeds on honeybees. Across Europe, I'm going to focus on Europe particularly, we have three main predators, which actually are creating huge problems in all across Europe and to honeybee colonies across Europe. They are all hornets, and they pertain to the Vespidae family. So we have here in the middle the best known Vespa velutina, which is also called the Asian hornet. Then we have on the right of our screens Vespa crabro, which actually is the European hornet. And then we have Vespa orientalis, which is the oriental hornet. So you can see that they are very different to an eye which actually has seen the three different species, but they can be mistaken one with another. So what I would say is that generally Vespa crabro has never created a huge problem, at least in my experience in southern Italy. Vespa velutina luckily has not reached southern Italy yet. Vespa orientalis has almost always lived in southern Italian environments. However, it has been like in the past 5 years, I would say, that is actually becoming a real problem, in the sense that the number of individuals and the widening of the areas of these animals is becoming bigger and bigger. So hornets and bees, they are both hymenopterans, but they pertain to different families, so Vespidae and Apidae. And they also have different kind of anatomical features. So they both share the coloration in like yellow and black banded. However, hornets and wasps have bodies which are more elongated and they are smoother, in the sense they lack great amount of hair. This is mainly connected to the fact that they do not have this very strong pollinating activity. However, they are needed for some crops, I would say, and some cultures, such as figs, dates. In Italy, some of the wasps are also particularly important for wine, as they, with their microbiota, they somehow give flavors and textures and peculiar characteristics to wine. But they're not so as generalistic pollinators. So that's probably why one of the reasons they did not have so much hair on their body. Considering their feeding behavior, they also have mouth parts, which are very different. So in wasps and hornets, as they are more carnivorous, or at least in some stages of their life, they have more of a chewing apparatus, while on the contrary, we all know that bees are vegetarians, so they have more of a sucking mouth parts. Be aware that a bite from one of those hornets, I would say, is nearly as soaring as a sting from these animals. They have mouth parts which are very, very, very strong. They're able to break gloves, like latex gloves. And if they bite you, it's very, very, very painful. Also, they have both stingers. However, they have, as we all know, different kind of morphology, which means that once a hornet actually stings you, is able to sting you more than once, because it does not attach and retain in your skin or in the animal's skin. And this, we have seen different problems connected to stinging of hornets, in the sense that, particularly in animals which live in the fields or sheep dogs, dogs living in gardens. We've had a raise in the amount of animals, of dogs particularly, which go and refer to veterinarians because they have hemorrhagic problems, they have breathing problems. And when, asking questions and trying to investigate a little bit about what's happening, they always report that there were nearby at least nest of hornets. So we see that they're actually not so aggressive, but obviously if you go to very next to their nests and you play with it somehow, they obviously try to attack you in order to protect their nests. Talking about nets, they are very different. So we all know that honeybees create wax colonies, while on the contrary, hornets, as wasps, they create this nests which are, I would call it like paper nests. Actually, it is a mixture of cellulose, which they are able to break and mixture with enzymes in their mouth. Very resistant. So they're generally composed of cells which have the same shape of honeybees, quite bigger, as these animals are far way bigger than honeybees, and they are generally structured in levels, and each level is connected to the previous one by some vertical components, and then they are even more protected by an outer layer. So what you can see here is this is actually on your left a nest of Vespa glabro, which we went to remove from a garden. And this, on the contrary, is a nest from Vespa velutina. So the characteristics of this nest is the fact that they have an opening at the bottom of it. So animals, they actually fly in and out of it from the bottom of it. So it's built from the top to the bottom. And if you open it, what you can say is the creation of different kind of discs, which have these vertical parts connecting them one to another. So they are social animals, they are social insects. However, on the contrary, compared to honeybees, they have annual colonies, which means that they start their life generally in the month of February, and then the colony dies just, I would say, before Christmas, or at least that was what we had seen in the past years. They are also female colonies in the sense that females have the power. We have 3 different castes. As in honeybees, we have queens, we have males, and we have workers. As bees, the female component, so workers, foragers, are sterile females. And conversely to honeybees, it has never been reported that they can actually start laying eggs. It is important for me to underline that we have very few informations in literature about the ecology, the behavior of these animals. What we have is generally something which was collected and described by Ishai in, I would say, starting from the 80s till the beginning of the 2000s. So the amount of information of these animals in current years, and in particularly in our European territory, is lacking. And we would, in my opinion, it would be very important to start thinking about these animals. I'm sure that Alexandros has the same idea. He's also, when we talked at a cost meeting, he had the same feeling that this is and is going to be a huge problem, and we need to focus more on this animal. So as I was saying before, colonies are for all hornets are annual colonies. Here I presented you the life cycle of the colony of Vespa velutina, which is the most studied hornet species, the most studied predator hornet species. So basically, we have that the life cycle starts in February, when queens which had previously hibernated, they awaken and they go outside their nests, and they start building what is called like a primary nest. So it's very small. It is usually well hidden as a nest. And in this particular moment of the year and of the colony development, we have that the queen does everything. So she would be in charge of egg laying. She would be in charge of foraging. She would be in charge of expanding the nest, actually building and creating all the elements of the nest. Then as soon as the nest and the amount of hornets becomes higher and higher, so the colony starts actually to develop, things change in the sense that the primary nest becomes a secondary nest. The queen with her foragers, she moves to a new location, and then a bigger nest is built. And this is the moment in which the queen hornet stops all kind of activities and focuses just on egg laying. While on the contrary, foragers then will provide for food, will provide for components, and they will actually build and further expand the nest. Then we have, so let's say starting from during the summer months, July till mid-September, probably beginning of October, we will have the maximum amount of individuals in a colony. And as soon as autumn starts, we have the development also of males. And we have that future. So in the month of October, so when autumn starts, then we have that males and future queens, so what we call founders, will mate. And then it starts the moment in which the colony declines. So we'll have, first of all, that males and foragers or workers, they start to die. And then the foundresses which have been have mated, then they will, each one of them will take a different route, and they will find a new place in which they can hibernate. And basically, we have that life cycle of Vespa orientalis is exactly the same. So this is how it works. However, what's happening is that we have observed that it's not so strict, in the sense that according to the weather, they are able to stop their colony life cycle and then start it again. Particularly this year, we had queens coming out around the month of May. So basically, all the life cycle was postponed to the month of May. After that, we had very cold temperature and we stopped seeing queens around. So we had a huge then burst of Vespa orientalis presence in apiaries between the months of August till, I would say, last week. Now it's already starting to decline again. So basically, while before, or at least I started my monitoring and data collection project on 2020. Now, in the past 5 years, in 2020, it actually was respecting this kind of timing. However, in the past years, what we have seen is that the coming out of new foundresses actually occurred a couple of months later, so in the month of April. And then it stopped if it started to rain, or it stopped to if it was very cold. And this year it was particularly evident as we actually saw them at the middle of July again. And they stayed till, I told you, like last week, a few of them. We have seen males at the beginning of October. So they were mating, we know that. We haven't seen any queens going around in the past periods. However, foragers I usually observe still in the month of December. So we were actually able last year to find a nest which was fully living nest on the 15th of December 2023, which is a red flag for what's happening, because these animals very dependent on the weather and on the temperature and on the hours of light that they have during the day. So this is a bit of a wrap up about what's happening and why is the life cycles of these animals important. Because we will see that to manage these animals, it is important to know each kind of trap or each kind of monitoring and controlling a technique when it is the best moment to actually put it in place. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of how different these three animals are, we have Vespa velutina, which is quite small. It is mainly black, I would say, and it has characteristic yellow legs. And it has bands, which are generally, we can consider as one band just at the last part of the abdomen. On the contrary, Vespa crabro is far bigger. It can reach around also 4 centimeters. I've measured some which were 5.5 centimeters, quite big. They are more of a rusty color, and they have more bands at the last part of the abdomen. On the contrary, Vespa orientalis, it's also a copper reddish color, so it's very different from Vespa velutina. And it has two main characteristics. So the first of all is the presence of yellow signs between on the face. So what I would say between the eyes. And then it has a yellow band in the abdomen. So actually there are two yellow bands with spots. And you can see it because compared to the other hornets, it seems like it was highlighted with a highlighter. So it's a very intense yellow color. On the contrary, the bands of Vespa velutina and Vespa crabro, they are more like orangey than actually super yellow. This is Vespa crabro. As I told you, it is bigger. This is what you probably are more used to see in your countries. It has been in Italy for a long, long time. It has been in Europe for a long, long time. Is it a real problem for beekeeping? I cannot answer because in southern Italy, it was not reported as being a huge problem. It was just doing its job, predating once in a while a couple of bees without any kind of pressure, real pressure on honeybee colonies. On the contrary, Vespa orientalis is a huge, huge, huge problem. We have some sort of dimorphism in the different castes. So queens are always bigger. We have drones, as in honeybees, they are a little bit smaller. And what is characteristic is the fact that drones have longer antennas compared to workers. So this would be one of the first things that you actually can see. This is a piece of a primary nest that we removed from a house. And you can see how it is structured. So it starts, these are all larvae, and also in hornets, as in honeybees, they are capped. It has been described the presence of primary nests in the soil, in trees, in some sort of caves. I have never seen it actually, because what I mostly encounter is the presence of primary and secondary nests in cities, because there it's when they actually call us for help to remove nests. So I've never seen them actually in the soil. I have seen them sometimes in flower vases, but it's very difficult for us to see them actually in nature. On the contrary, this is Vespa velutina's secondary nests. And so this already shows us how they have different behaviors. So Vespa velutina is more of a field, more of a wild kind of hornet. On the contrary, Vespa orientalis likes a lot to be in towns, likes to live next to humans. And in southern Italy, we have really, really big towns, really, really big cities, and we have apiaries and beekeeping farms, which are also in highly populated, densely populated towns, or at least next to them. So this is probably why they actually found some sort of environment, habitat that they like. On the contrary, Vespa velutina, which is why it's very difficult also to find the nests, occurs mainly in the woods, mainly on high branches, and this is also why it is more and more difficult to remove actually these nests. So what about the situation with Vespa orientalis? So Vespa orientalis is actually native of the Mediterranean basin. Greece, Algeria, Morocco, Malta, Turkey, Tunisia, they all have a history with this animal, but apparently has never created such fuss. In southern Italy, so in Campania, which you can see with the black arrow, and in Sicily, a little bit in Calabria, they have always been present, but they have never been reported as creating damage. So what you can see here is the actually numbers of reports of observations of Vespa orientalis, starting from 2016, going up to 2021. And as you can see, so you always had it in Sicily, which is the brown color. Then you had it in Campania, which is where I come from. It's where Naples is, which is this orangey color. And then it started moving north. So it reached the Marche region. It flew to Sardinia, or better, probably it was transported to Sardinia. It is in the Latium region. It went in Liguria, where Vespa velutina is mainly. It went on the other side of the Italian boot, what we call it, the Italian boot. And as it has been reported here in Trieste, then we believe that it could soon go beyond borders and start moving across Europe. We actually already have some kind of reports around Europe. So we have them in Spain, in Gibraltar mainly. We have them in Greece, all across the peninsula. And we're starting also to have reports of them in Eastern Europe, so in Romania. And we had also one report in England. However, this species has what I call some sort of solar panels in the abdomen, which help them transform light into energy to then break down glucose and get them energy for flights. So probably as soon as they reached England, they found that there was not so much sun that they could use. So probably they did not like it very much, or they did not actually find any kind of environment which could actually sustain their life and life cycle. So one of our main questions is, why is it moving? Why isn't it finding any more, isn't this species any more comfortable in these areas? Why is it moving more north? We have no answers to this. We have made some hypotheses, obviously. Unfortunately, I'm not an ecologist, so it's very difficult for me to try and answer to this question. But by talking with fellow colleagues, some of the ideas are starting to come out. So definitely we believe that climate change is helping them, because they need to have certain temperatures, they need to have a certain amount of humidity. And as we are seeing that there is an increase in temperature going north, probably is Vespa orientalis is following this wave of heat. It could be that, so we do not see only an expansion of its environment, but we also see that there is an increase in the number, which probably could be connected to the absence of real predators. It could be because it finds higher food availability and better nesting site. And I think that this could be something, in the sense that at least in southern Italy, it is very, very easy for them to find food. They are scavengers. They like dead animals. They like waste. So this is why we often find them also near where we have, let's say, street cat colonies. So where people go and feed the animals, the cats, the stray cats, they are always there eating cat food. I have cats in my garden, and they actually are attracted even by the dry food. So they come and they steal bits and pieces of dry food. They have loads of rubbish, unfortunately, in the street. They have loads of fish waste. They have loads of also fruit which have been abandoned in the street. So probably this is making them very comfortable in cities, in towns. They have loads of nesting sites. So they do not have anymore their original woods environment or soil, but they like building nests in the shutters, in the house shutters. They love building nests in air conditioning systems. So probably the fact that they are becoming so comfortable, obviously, is making them creating more and more individuals and actually establishing populations. I've also observed the fact that they usually tend to build the nest in the same site where they built it last year. So somehow they remember where they were born, which is really strange because they are different animals. So it's not the same animal which lived there before. There's a lot to study. There's a lot to try to understand. And I really hope that this can be the occasion to create a group of people interested in this kind of topic. So talking more about the behavior of these animals, what we know is that they have different kinds of feeding according to the life stage. So in adults, they mainly feed on carbohydrates. They like fruit, they like nectar, and they like honey. When they are in younger stages of life, so when they are larvae, they eat proteins. So they eat insects, from yellow jackets to grasshoppers to honeybees. They eat larvae from all of these animals and from honeybees, and they eat pollen. I'll show you some videos of their activity, their preying activities in beekeeping systems. So it has been reported that honeybees are among their favorite food, which I believe it's quite understandable. They're quite easy to, honeybees are quite easy to catch for them compared to other animals. And then with the beekeeping, we actually provide them easy ways to get honeybees. So this we were just inspecting a little bit a hive with students from university, and you can see that basically you have loads of Vespa orientalis going and trying to pick honeybees from honeybee frames. Here you can see that actually honeybees respond to the presence of Vespa orientalis. So they try to create a great amount of honeybees around one Vespa orientalis. They try to sting it in different directions. However, they are not always efficient in doing it because the cuticula of Vespa orientalis is far, far, far harder than that of honeybees. And sometimes when they actually start creating this sort of ball around one individual Vespa orientalis, obviously they are focusing on that particular individual, and it becomes easier for other animals to actually go and pick them up and take them away. So the predatory behavior of Vespa orientalis is very interesting and very different from that of Vespa velutina. So it flies in front of the hives, all around it, basically. It looks for bees which are separated from the group because it's easier for them not to be then attacked by whole amounts of honeybees. If there are no single bees available, then they start flying at the corners of the hive, waiting for a bee coming back from the foraging activities. This is very different because, on the contrary, while Vespa velutina actually tries to capture honeybees flying with the back against the hive, on the contrary, Vespa orientalis actually faces the hive. So this is some kind of observation which generally has, obviously, I believe, has a meaning in the behavior of these animals. Queens eat differently from adults, so other forages, because they actually feed on carbohydrates which are provided by the larvae themselves. So there is this connection between all of the individuals of the nest. So we have that When larvae are hungry, they start to bang their mouth and their heads against the walls, the cells of the nests. In this way, they communicate that they are hungry. Foragers come and they feed them. They feed them proteins. We have talked about it. And as soon as they are fed, they then release a drop of sugary substance, which is then the food of the queens. I hope you can hear the sound that they make because it's very interesting. So this is one of the nests, the primary nests that we actually removed from one of the shutters. So definitely one of the risks for beekeeping and honeybee colonies is the predatory activity. They catch honeybees, they remove the abdomen, they keep the muscles, and they eat them, and they create like little meatballs of it, and then they feed the larvae. But they also like plundering honeybee colonies. They go inside the colonies to get the stored honey, stored pollen, stored food, and then they feed themselves or they feed the larvae with pollen. But what is very interesting is what we have observed, and it's now being observed by different researchers, is the ability to inhibit foraging. So honeybees stay inside the hive when they see that there is a high predatory activity of Vespa orientalis. Then, when all of the storage of the food, which is storage inside the hives, is almost finished, then we will have then a part of the honeybees without a queen. They move. So you can find them also in the months of October, beginning of November, leaving their hive without a queen, probably to escape. We don't know it. We just observed it till now. As hornets feed on honeybees, it has been reported that probably this is one of the routes through which hornets can acquire honeybee pathogens. So it has been described in different kinds of hornets. This is Vespa crabro. The presence of virus, fungi, and bacteria pertaining to honeybees, which also were replicative and were able, as in this case, to cause lesions of the animals. Obviously, this leads to the fact that all of the pathogens can further spread across the territories of honeybees. So in one of our studies, what we did, there were no news about Vespa orientalis. There was just the detection of honeybee pests in Vespa orientalis. So we started researching and investigating this topic. So first of all, we detected the presence of 6 of the most common honeybee viruses in Italy. Then the following year, we have managed to actually get from the wild, I would say, the hornet colonies and raise them under laboratory conditions. Well, not laboratory, but controlled field conditions. And we put them in an apiary. So while on the first stage, we just investigated the presence of honeybee viruses. In the second year, the following year, we evaluated the presence of honeybee virus in hornet forages, larvae, and in honeybee foragers. And then the following years, we further investigated the presence of other kinds of pathogens, so fungi and protozoa. So what we found at the beginning was that actually all of the samples that we collected had at least one virus, one honeybee virus. And the percentages of the viruses which were present in 3 different locations from which we captured these hornets, these samples of Vespa orientalis, perfectly reflected the epidemiology of honeybee viruses, which we found in colonies nearby during the years. So the next year, what we did, we collected the larvae because we wanted to understand if transmission could have occurred through ingestion of honeybees, or if on the contrary, it could have occurred in the adult time when foraging on pollen, on nectar. So we actually collected larvae samples from our artificially bred colonies in 2 different moments, on the 13th of September and on the 25th of September. So in the first collection of larvae, what we saw is that also in this case, we had a high prevalence of viruses. And the second time that we sampled the larvae, we also sampled honeybees coming from honeybee colonies, which were raised next to our Vespa orientalis colonies. And what we saw was actually that the kind of viruses were the same. So they all had the foreign wing viruses. None of them showed the presence of chronic B. paralysis viruses or Kashmir bee viruses. And then we also saw that while sequencing, we had an homology of 99% of the 2 viruses. So it is likely that this has occurred in this way. In the further studies, we evaluated the detection of other kind of pathogens. So we had the presence of Nosema serranae, which you can see here with the arrows. We investigated the presence, and we actually found the presence of Trypanosomatidi. We evidenced the presence also of Ascosphaera apis. To date, we do not know if these are actually real infections. We know that at least they could participate in spreading of the pathogens. So this is just a news to keep in mind that together with many other arthropods which are actually able to carry the pathogens, also Vespa orientalis can participate in spreading them. We are now trying to perform infections under laboratory condition to try to understand what actually happens between the Vespa orientalis and the viruses, the honeybee viruses particularly. It is also a risk for humans. It is not very likely that Vespa orientalis actually stings humans because they're not aggressive animals. You can go absolutely with no protection in apiaries and they will not even look at you. What happens is that if you then play with their nets, obviously, this is what is going to happen. So this is a clinical case which was reporting what happened after stinging. So the person reported that it was a 10 in a scale of 1 to 10 in the intensity of pain perceived. She had a really strong reactions, and all of the symptoms only were in complete remission after 2 weeks of cortisons, of use of cortisone. I would now just like focus a little bit on how to control these animals. it is impossible to think about eliminating completely these species. What we need to do is to control and limit the damage to the colonies. So mainly this can happen through trapping, particularly of foragers, nest disruption, so a nest removal, so we eliminate the problem from the beginning. And if we eliminate queens in the two different moments, obviously this will lead to the limiting the number of nests that we can have during the following year. As I was saying before, it's really important to understand what to apply when, in which moment. So generally what we are trying to do is to perform the nest disruption on the primary nest. If this cannot occur, then as soon as we find a secondary nest. So this would be around the first periods of March, and then around the month of August and September, the secondary nest. Trapping should start before we believe new queens are going to set up the primary colony. What had happened till now was that trapping was only used for getting foragers, while it actually should begin before, and it should have as an aim the trapping of queens. Then again, we should try to work on the elimination of future queens, so on the elimination of foundresses. Trapping is a great, very strong topic. Beekeepers have loads of fantasy, creativity, and originality when coming to creating traps. Loads of fellow researchers are trying to find and test which is the best trap for Vespa orientalis. What I can tell you is that it is not possible to take something that we use for Vespa velutina and use it on Vespa orientalis. So traps are mainly bottle traps in which you have a bait inside. The idea is basically to somehow call the hornets inside the trap and creating a way for them not to go out anymore. So you can see there are different kinds of nets with an entry hole without the possibility of escaping. According to the money that you have, beekeepers have, they will use different kind of traps. Personally, one that I like a lot is this trap here, which I will further describe in next slides. These are all kind of traps which are used for attracting Vespa velutina particularly. Today, I know there is a study trying to evaluate them. For me, not working for Vespa orientalis at all. These are also traps for Asiatic hornets, but as you can see here, they sometimes don't even know what you're talking about because this is Vespa crabro. Obviously, this, I don't even know what it is. It's really strange kind of hornet. But it is sold as for controlling Vespa velutina. Traps made of cardboard with a bait with glue on it. It actually works. So they actually stick on it. But there are some problems. These animals are so intelligent, really intelligent. So as soon as they see that 10, 15, 50 individuals are there, they're not going to fall for the trick anymore. So they remember where these kind of traps are installed. So sometimes beekeepers, they use this kind of trap but they move it around the apiary. And when it does not work, this is how they actually kill them. So this is an electrocuting racket. And you can imagine the amount of time that they spend in fighting this species compared to the time that they actually have for their beekeeping activities that they normally perform. Baits is another kind of hot topic. We tried to test which was the best bait for Vespa orientalis. So we used the bottles, they're called tap trap bottles. They have a provided recipe, not working for Vespa orientalis. Rotten fruit, okay, we need forages. We're going to collect forages. We will put some kind of carbohydrates in it. Also not working. Cat food in water, actually, somehow it worked. So we started in this project to empty all of the baits, of the traps, look what was inside. It works really well for Vespa crabro, which is what they are, it was created for. Does not work for Vespa orientalis. We collected lots of diptera. We collected cats with our baits. But at the same time, we had different kind of tools, different kind of traps. And while the other kind of traps were actually working, bottles did not work at all. So this is the trap I was telling you about, which personally, I believe it works very well. I don't know if I have time now to show you a video. But this is what we collected. This is in 1 week.
Stanno dentro bloccati, non riescono a
So this is the same. This is the same trap. And you can see the amount of hornets that we actually were able to catch.
Bisogna spararle con qualcosa.
And then what the colleague is saying, she's one of the from the Faculty of Agronomy. She's saying, well, they're still alive for a lot of time, so probably we should use some kind of pesticide, let's say, to kill them, further kill them. So also in this case, we have a trap which is created with a net outside. It has the possibility for the hornets to come in, attracted by a bait. And then it has 2 different levels. So this is, I don't know what the English word for it is. So it's the piece in which it does not make the queen bees go on the topper part.
It's queen excluder.
Exactly, yeah, it's a queen excluder. And so in this way, you have that only hornets or bigger animals remain inside, while the smaller animals such as honeybees can leave. But I've never seen honeybees actually going in this kind of traps. If you do not want to trap them, then you can try to control their activity on their predation and plundering activities on the hives by protecting the entrance. In my experience, this, as when you put the pollen traps, creates some sort of stress in the honeybees. They don't like it, and it seems like it is more difficult for them to actually adapt to them compared to the pollen traps that you can have. Nest removals from the apiaries. So this was a nest removal plus sampling, trying to get into collection. It's one of my students here. You can see that they live inside the abandoned hives. Nest removals from the houses. So this is in the heating system. You can see that there is a nest here. This is one of my beekeepers, which help me in removing the nests. It's inside the house. This is where the shutters are. As I was telling you, is one of the favorite spots to find them. Controlling methods. Do we have any predatory species which can control them? I have seen, unfortunately not so frequently, the fight between Vespa crabro and Vespa orientalis. Vespa crabro is far more bigger than Vespa orientalis. It doesn't seem to actually have any kind of problems with having Vespa orientalis around. But when they are in conditions of not perfect well-being, so when they are on the floor, walking in the grass or on flowers, Vespa crabro can actually manage to capture them. On the contrary, while they are flying in the fight between Vespa orientalis and Vespa crabro, Vespa crabro always loses. Vespa crabro can never actually manage to capture in flight Vespa orientalis. Probably it's too fast. Probably Vespa crabro doesn't even care a lot about it. Possible enemy of Vespa orientalis in the countries of in African countries of the Mediterranean basin. They have proposed the use of Sphecophaga as, let's say, a biocontroller. In these countries, in these environments, it is, I would call like a parasite, macroparasite. So basically it uses the life cycles, the eggs and the larvae of Vespa orientalis to develop itself and its own larvae and its own eggs. My question is, do we really want to take in Europe a new species, which will still be an alien species? Never seen this species across Europe. Do we really want to use a new species to kill a species which is here? Don't know, it's a difficult question to answer. More recently, particularly thanks to the Colos, I have won a small project on trying to understand if electric harps can be used in at least reducing and controlling the predatory activity of Vespa orientalis towards honeybee colonies. It has been reported that it works quite well for Vespa velutina. But as I told you, Vespa velutina and Vespa orientalis are hornets, cousins, we could say somehow, but very different in foraging, in predatory activities. So I was wondering if this could work. Basically, harps, they have these wires and they are connected to an electric source. Generally, the electric source is then connected to a battery and it works on thanks to solar panels, which makes it quite an independent, ongoing type of trapping. So basically, I am in a preliminary time. I bought the commercial ARPs. I was waiting to install them as soon as I was ready because they arrived, etc., etc. As I told you, this year, Vespa orientalis was not there in June, was not there in May. It just arrived at the end of July. So basically, let's say, lost 3 months of research, which then was perfectly compensated in the months of August and September. So here you can see this was the after 10 days that we have installed. So as everything that you actually introduce in your apiary, I would always suggest to, before making it function or before starting actually checking if it works or not, to give at least a couple of weeks for honeybees to adapt to something new, which is in the apiary. So electric harps are generally put perpendicularly to the honeybee entrances of the hives. Here, we considered one electric harp every 4 hives. And this is what we managed to collect in the first 10 days. And as you can see, they are filled with Vespa orientalis. So when they fly, they basically get a little of electric shock. In some cases, they remain attached and then they fall down in this trap here. In some other cases, they just get a little electroshock and they manage to escape from the trap. However, what we have observed is that the individuals which are, in any case, let's say, at least partially electrocuted, then they are unable to fly again. And they become prey for other hornets. So this is what, every week we open them and we count how many each of the ARPs has collected. And this is after a week. So this was 10 days after we have installed them. This is 1 week after the 10 days that we previously see. We have calculated approximately that we have a mean for each of the harps of around 1,400 Vespa orientalis. So in the period starting from the end of July till the first week of October, the average of the collected animals was around 1,400. But we had in some of these that actually we collected there was one day that we counted 2,110 individuals just after 1 week. As I was telling you, even though they are entrapped after being electrocuted, they stop flying. And this is mainly because their wings, they break and they're not functional anymore. So once they then go on the floor or walking in the grass, they become prey themselves for other Vespa orientalis. Also, another thing that we have observed was that, so we had installed these electric harps in one part of the apiary. 300 meters far, we had another apiary which worked on as a control. And what we saw, it was that after around 3 weeks from installing in the testing apiary, the ARPs, Vespa orientalis stopped, or it reduced its predatory activity in this apiary, and it actually moved to the other apiary, where it started giving very, very aggressively predatory activity against the hives. So then we moved again the ARPs in the what was our control apiary for 1 week. And basically what we saw that we collected also loads of individuals, and we saw that the amount of Vespa orientalis which was just flying around the hives was reduced. So on one hand, we have the abilities of these instruments to trap, so to reduce the number of individuals. But also, as I believe they are very fast learners, very intelligent animals, they also learn, probably they recognize the tool, and they reduce their predatory pressure. However, as they are very intelligent, they also started to work their way out of the traps. So they have very strong mandibles. They started breaking the nets around the arbs, so the collecting part, and they actually managed to escape. So very intelligent animals, they will find a way to survive. They managed to break them all, get out of it. In any case, as you can see from the picture, they have damaged wings, so they will not be able to fly and have their predatory activity. We called the producer and said, well, probably, plastic is not the best idea to use in this kind of trap. And last but not least, this is something that is been used, so the Z method with Vespa orientalis, with Vespa velutina. It is authorized as a research activity, the use of particular chemical substances using what we call Troy horse technique. So basically, you catch some of the individuals which are in the apiaries. You administer a chemical, and then when the forager flies back, because it is administered in sublethal doses, then it takes a part of the chemical inside the nest, and via prophylaxis or via exchange of topical condition, it then it's transferred inside the colony, and it has been reported that it actually leads to the decrease in the number of individuals inside the hornet nests, and that it can lead in the end at the complete loss, the complete death of the nests. There would be so much more things to talk about, but I think we have time for questions, and we can open, I believe, a debate about it. There is all the AI techniques which are being applied to these animals, to hornets in general, the use of transposers, and more and more, how do I say, technological tools. I'm not big experts because they would not work where I live. They work, I think, very well where you have this big plain amount of how do you call them, agricultural places, because then when you have high buildings, high trees, probably they're less effective. So I will stop sharing my screen.
Thanks so much, Karen, for such good presentation. Sorry to interrupt you. It was very good.
No, it's fine.
I had a lot of questions, but all of them were answered during your presentation.
Okay.
But we have few questions in the chat from Eco Design Company, where it is, let me find it. Is there a national or regional strategy for removing nests in your region of Italy? Also, what type of pesticides are authorized to remove nests?
Okay, so the main problem is this, that Vespa orientale is not considered an invasive species in Italy, which means that all the laws and controlling method and so on, which are recognized for Vespa velutina, they are not authorized, and they do not just not authorized for Vespa orientalis because it is not considered an alien species. However, at least in southern Italy, it creates far more damage, because this year, so productive year 2024, we lost approximately more than 30% as a mean value of hives due to direct or indirect action of Vespa orientalis. So this is the situation. We are now starting local projects, and these local projects are then now meshing in a bigger project, which is a national project led by CREA, which is also let's say, one of the components of the Vespa Velutina project, so Stop Vespa. And it's also part of the Colos and so on, which is like at the head of this national project. And we refer to it when doing our monitoring activities, our surveillance activities. Regarding the use of, let's say, pesticides, this, so if we are talking about the Z method, this is not actually authorized. So it has been, let's say, released as its use for research activities. So there are only few people which can actually use it. If we are talking about the removal of secondary nests by Vespa Velutina, because generally this is what it is authorized, it needs to be done by very specific people which have sustained a course, and they are authorized to using it, and there are mainly pyrethroids and pyrethrins. But they like, beekeepers cannot use them. I mean, you need to officially report the presence of the nest. I'm talking about the Vespa Velutina, officially reporting the presence of the nest, and then a cascade of governmental people will be in charge of actually removing it. Also because, as I showed you in one of the pictures, it is they are located in places which are generally inaccessible to normal beekeepers, so they need a whole amount of people and structures to actually remove these nets. For Vespa orientalis, it is definitely not authorized any kind of pesticides for killing or damaging the nests.
Okay, I think most of the other questions were answered regarding the warm areas. I suppose they need mild climate, not some extreme climate, as it's been discussed in the comments. Anyone else has something to ask, maybe, while we are still here? One more question from Eco Design.
Okay, so if we are talking about controlling inside the apiaries, for me it really depends on how big the apiary is, how many hives I have, if there are any other apiaries next to the one we are working with. I would say that it depends on all of these things. So if I have a small apiary, the best thing would be to put some kind of traps which would actually work on reducing the number of the individuals, particularly the number of individuals during the just before we have the peak in the colonies. In my opinion, electric harps work quite well, but they work quite well in small apiaries. They are quite expensive. You can buy them, already made, but I've seen on the net that they also have, let's say, some kind of protocols for building them, which probably could reduce the cost of it. But as they will cover around 3 or 4 hives each time, then if you have really big beekeeping farms, then it would be probably very expensive. On the other hand, they have very little managing time, managing effort that needs to be put on them. While if you have bottle traps, not effective at all for Vespa orientalis, in my opinion, at least in my experience. You need to every, I would say, 5 days, probably 7 days, empty them, put a new bait in, monitoring them to understand when then you need to actually empty them. The trap that I showed you, the one which has like the pyramid inside, that is very effective. But it is very effective in controlling the number of individuals. Also, in that case, you need to empty it, I would say, obviously, according to the amount of Vespa orientalis that you have in your beekeeping farm. I would say that around every week, maximum every 2 weeks, I would empty them. Because they can start feeling the smell of the rotten animals, and they probably, I don't know if they probably see that there are other individuals as them trapped. So it really depends. Personally, obviously, talking about beekeeping environment, I'm not a fan of using chemicals. We are all trying to reduce the amount of chemicals. We don't know how these chemicals work, how they are transported, the correct amount. We need to do studies about it. But if we're using a chemical against one species of insect, then probably will affect the other ones. We don't know what actually is the pressure of these predators in the wild. We had like a whole approximately 2 hours of talking about what happens in the beekeeping system. We know nothing about what's happening in the wild. And we do not know the effects that using chemicals could have on the beekeeping system and in the wild. It's everything very much on ongoing studies. And I strongly believe that we need to work together to prevent from having preventing from this problem developing in a new fight against Vespa velutina or a new fight against Varroa or any kind of alien species, because it's not alien in Italy, but it is behaving as an alien species. It will become an alien species in northern central Europe. So we should probably start, just keeping in our mind the existence of this animal.
I think we have one more question from Kirstof and from Alexandros. He has 3 questions. I'm not sure if you have time, Karen, to answer them.
I have.
Okay.
I think it's somewhere. Okay, so, but I cannot see the questions from Alexandro.
Yeah, I would like to ask
ecco, ciao, Alexandro.
Hello, Karen. Thank you for this detailed and a very interesting presentation. Mainly, I was lucky enough last week to be in Cyprus for this issue. Took around 2,000 queens at this time, and it's a massacre for the apiaries there. The point is that I have the privilege and luxury to observe the behavior in two areas, Cyprus and Andalusia, that in Andalusia is an invasive species, while in Cyprus it's there for thousands of years, and it has been co-evolved with the Cyprian bee. So there are some questions. First of all, the first regarding the harps. I have seen the trap, and I wonder if there are any cases that the electroshock or the use of such devices could pose any danger for fires, because it's totally forbidden in Andalusia, I guess, while in the north of Spain it's been used against velutina. The second question has to do if you have observed bird eaters attacking, because you talked about enemies. Well, in Cyprus, when we have swarms of bee eaters, the Merops apiaster, we see that the first prefer to attack Vespa orientalis. It's their best played, as we can say, and then they turn their interest to bees. And the third one, if you have tested we did this in Cyprus last week, just in the traps, nothing could work except of honey. Of course, there we had the luxury that bees in Cyprus are quite adapted and they don't fly, they don't forage during daylight. So we can use honey to attract hornets, and we can really entrap thousands of them. I don't know if this is the case in Italy or in any other places. Sorry for so many questions. Thank you.
No, it's
Thank
fine.
you.
Okay, so electric harps and fires. Yes, I definitely believe that electric harps can cause problems because you just so the ones that I bought, I actually called them and to the industry, the fabric of it, and said, look, this is not safe, because they had lots of wires coming out and you have to build them on your own, and still it's quite strong, the battery that you have. So I definitely believe that there is a problem in setting fires, that there could be a risk for it. I don't know how you could prevent for doing this. I think you could prevent it from, adapting materials to the environment. So the one that I saw, that I actually built and that I'm using, I don't believe they're very safe. Because I told you there are wires, it's everything a little bit more homemade. So we would probably need, a prototype which has ISO, some kind of safety guarantee of the product. I can't remember the second question. Yes, the different behavior in Andalusia and was it that question there?
Mainly if you can have used honey in traps, and if these attract also bees.
No, we do not use. I've never used honey in traps, but what sometimes we have used is we take an empty hive. We put some frames in it, so one frame of brood and the other frames which have honey in it, so capped honey, and that works quite well. Then we close it with the queen excluder, and they are trapped in there. So we use not pure honey, but sometimes we use honeycombs which have honey inside.
Thank you. And the last one, if you have observed any Merops apiaster attacking the Vespa orientalis.
No.
Thanks.
Okay, I think that's it. I haven't heard if you answered Christoph questions.
No.
They've been not able to penetrate the husk of the wasp with their sting.
They actually can do it. It's very difficult. That's why you have loads of so as any kind of Hymenoptera, they have, let's say, I can't remember the word in English, the membrane between the different tergites of the abdomen, and if they manage to sting in there, then they will probably be successful. But another kind of way it is to increase the temperature. So they create this fireball, let's call it, in which they increase the temperature inside of it, and they take it to a temperature which is not compatible with the life of Vespa orientalis. These are observational studies that have been done, I told you, around 30, 50 years ago. So this needs to be further investigated. Then I can see that Fanny has written some things. The traps with the hood nets on the top of an empty hive and queen excluder are really very effective, and we use them from early spring to autumn. The baits with pesticides are also very effective to destroy population in the next, but it has to be given in a way that no other animals can reach it, of course. Queen excluders in front of the colonies. Also, it is a technique for providing them from going inside. Weak colonies cannot survive as the Vespas are entering the colonies. Water source is also a place where they find the bees. Electric harps could be installed there too. I don't know if next to water. But yes, I agree for what concludes Fanny, that you need to have, you cannot think about using one source of controlling technique. You need to have more than one at the same time. You need to share, put different kind of traps in different moments of the year, sometimes also at the same time. Then there is another question. Okay, so Alexandro says, we've tested many years ago the hypothesis of thermo-bailing. It does not work with Vespa orientalis. They have the same upper thermal limit with bees. Ah, okay. Nice to be known, because it is actually, how do you say, reported in literature, but as I told you, it is a long time ago literature that actually they create temperature thermobailing. Is there any way we can attract the queens earlier in spring? Well, generally, we suggest always to put in the apiaries starting from the month of March, so the beginning of March, the bottles. So the bottles with the tap on it, they do not work very well against Vespa orientalis compared to Vespa crabro, but a couple of individuals actually are attracted by it. We do not know exactly which is the preferred bait for the queens, because in that moment, we do not actually know if they also feed on proteins, in the sense that if we need to think about queens on their own, they feed on carbohydrates as adults. If they need to predate the animals for proteins, then it is because the larvae need them. So in this specific moment, we do not know which is the best of the two options for queens in early spring. And just very also connected to what else is available on the territory in that particular moment. Personally, for me, it worked quite well with the cat food. So I would suggest to in the early moments put carbohydrates, and then put the protein bait a little bit more during time. I think there are no other questions.
Yes, well, we don't have much time either. So yes, I want to thank you, Karen, for giving us such great presentation. It was very insightful.
Thank you.
Especially, I mean, now I suppose I'll tell my professor about this problem with these wasps. I suppose they will come to Serbia soon. And
yes,
yes.
so I hope that we can discuss further, the creating like a group of people also working on this topic by, based on this cost action, then to create like a group of researchers working on the topic. Let's see what happens.
Yes, I'll see with Andrea about this one. And just to remind you guys, if you are interested in presenting your work like Karen today, you can send me an email. I've written it here in the chat, so we can do one more webinar in a month. The last Monday of the month will be reserved for webinars. Okay, I suppose that's it then. Thank you all and hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.